Hi everyone. Sorry I'm not in today, but I wanted to make a video so that you guys don't have to get behind. So when you walked in today, you should have grabbed 4 pieces of paper off the front table. So page 35 is going to be your warm-up, and that, oops, hold on, I'm new at this. That looks like this. So this is page 35. This is what you're going to be doing first. But before you start your warm up, I want you to, so number one, homework on your desk, make sure your name is on it. So when the substitute comes around, they know whose name to mark off. And then number two, I want you to glue all these pages in your Ian and fill in your table of contents. So right here, you can see exactly how I want you to write your table of contents, 35, 36, and 37. So 36, you can see there's 2 sheets. The first one says at the top, it says writing fractions in simplest form. And then there's another one that's just like a little tiny piece of paper and it says reducing fractions. So I want you to glue those sideways on your paper so that you can have both of them glued on without having to fold things, and it should fit on your paper nicely. Okay, so yeah, they're going to be sideways, but they'll both fit on there. All right, so after you get those glued in and you have your table of contents filled in, I want you to do this right here just to get you started. So the first column, you're going to make a ratio, and we know that a ratio can be written 3 ways. So the first way a ratio could be written is using words. So for example, oval to star. So let's see, so there's 4 ovals, 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's 4 ovals, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars. So the first way we could write the ratio of oval to stars is 4 to 5. The second way we can write a ratio is we could use a colon. So we could have written that 4 to 5. And then the third way is to use a fraction, and that's what we're going to fill in to this first column over here. So we're going to write 4 to 5. Okay, so the first number is always going to go on top. Okay, so once we have our fractions, you're going to take your fraction and you're going to put into a decimal, and then from there you're going to put into a percent. Okay, so we know 4/5. Remember my trick for the fives is you can just take the numerator and you can multiply it times 20, and that'll give you the percent. So 4 times 20 is 80%. So let's fill that one in. So 80%. And we know 80% as a decimal is 0.8, because all we have to do is move this over, is we would dip. So since 80% is a percent and we move it into a decimal, we're going to move it 2 places over. So 1, 2 places. So as a decimal, it would be 0.8. Okay, because the decimal has to be right before the 8. All right, so now what I want you to do is I want you to pause the video and I want you to complete the rest. And then when you unpause it, I'm going to give you the answers to your warm-up. So, but it's really important that you actually do pause it and you do try it for yourself. You're going to have a quiz on ratios and fractions, decimals, and percents. So your quiz today is going to be on fraction, decimals, and percent. So converting your fractions in any form. So if I give you one form, you have to be able to give me the other 2. Okay, so it's going to be a little chart that kind of looks like this. And then soon you'll have a quiz on just ratio. So like, for example, I might ask, what is the ratio of ovals to stars? And then you would say 4 to 5. Okay, but today it's on fractions, decimals, and percents. So it's really important that you take this time before your quiz and you try your best so that whenever you come back, you can check your answers and see how you did. Okay, all right, so pause the video, and then when you come back, I'll give you your answers. All right, so welcome back. I'm going to scroll over. So here are your answers. So we did the first one together. So the second one, so you should, a couple things to look out for. So this right here, 33.3%, 3 repeated percent, that could also be written like this, 33 and 1/3%, and that's typically the way that you're going to see it written. So for example, if you see this on your quiz, make sure you don't just write 33%. It has to be 33 and 1/3% or 33 and 0.3 repeated percent. Okay, if it's just 33, it's wrong. Okay, so the next one, triangles to arrows. There were 3 triangles and 6 arrows, so you have to reduce. So your answer would be 1/2, and then we know those are your decimal percents. let's see, squares to ovals. There's 3 squares and 4 ovals, 75.75 and then 75%. The next one, triangle to all shapes. So that includes triangles, every single one. When you count up every single shape, there was 25 of them, and there was only 3 triangles. So the 3 goes on the top, and the 25 goes on the bottom. So 3/25. You would probably need to do your long division for that one, unless you were able to. So you could do 3 divided by 25. You could use the long division, or you could say, well, what numerator would make an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 100. So 25 times 4 is 100. So 3 times 4 is what? 12. Okay. So 12 over 100. So we know that 3/25 as a percent is 12%. And then 12% as a decimal is 0.12. Okay. So there's 2 ways. You could have done the long division. You could have done 25. How many times does 25 go into 3? It doesn't. So we have to add the 0, and it will go in 1 time, and then we can do it like that. I'm not going to work it all out right now for you, but you could have done that way also. Okay, so the next one, hexagons to ovals, 1 hexagon, 4 ovals, so 25%, 0.25, and then stars to arrows is 5/6, so that is 0.83 repeated, just the 3, and so then as a fraction, as a percent, it would be 83.3 repeated, and then again, you could also have written it like this. Instead of the 0.3 repeated, you could just do 1/3. But it's important that that's there. It's not just 83%. Okay, so hopefully you guys are good on this. So at this point, I want you to, I said 5 minutes, but it's really going to be however long it takes for everyone else to finish their warm-up and everything. So about 5 minutes or so, I'm going to have the sub let you practice your flashcards. So you can work alone if you want to work with a person next to you. As long as you keep it nice and quiet, I just want you to benefit from this time. So keep your flashcards face down. Look at the front, which should just be a fraction, and quiz yourself. So 1/4, what is 1/4? And then flip it over and see, oh, okay, that's 0.25, 25%. Hopefully you knew that. So just go through all those. And if you know them all, you're going to do wonderful on your quiz. Okay, so spend a few minutes doing that. So at this point, I want you to pause the video. After your quiz, you can come back and you can unpause your video. Okay, so good luck, guys. Okay, welcome back. I hope that you guys did wonderful on your quiz. Hopefully that wasn't too bad, not too much of a surprise. Okay, so now what we're going to do is in your in, earlier you glued in your pages. So here's page 36, and you have these turned sideways. So you have this page, and then there's that other tiny little mini sheet that's right next to it. So we're going to do the notes on this one first. Okay, so I know that we've talked about this a little bit, and I know you did this last year, but I wanted you to have a note sheet in here on reducing fractions. So anytime you see a fraction and you need to reduce it, I'm going to give you a couple different ways to do it, and then I'm going to give you some practice just so that you feel nice and confident with this, okay? All right, so simplest form is also known as lowest terms, excuse me. So it all means the same thing. So basically the numerator and the denominator have no other factors other than 1, okay? So I'm going to show you what this looks like. All right, so our example is 12/16 right here. Okay, so to write a fraction in simplest form, number 1, we need to find the greatest common factor. So we're going to figure out all the factors, all the numbers that we can multiply to get these numbers. Okay, so let's do the 12s first. So all the different numbers that we can multiply to get 12. So, and if you want, you can pause and you can list you can pause the video and you can list all the factors for 12 and all the factors for 16. Okay, I'm going to give them to you right now though. Okay, all right, so the factors of 12 are 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. And then the factors of 16 are 1, 2, 4, 8, and 16. Okay, so what is the greatest common factor? So a common factor means that 12 and 16 are both going to have this factor. So what's the biggest number? So if you look up here, you'll see that the biggest number, so it would be 4. Okay. So the greatest common factor is 4. So what we're going to do is we're going to, number 2, it says divide the numerator and denominator by that greatest common factor. All right, so I'm going to write it up here nice and big so you can see it. So 12/16. And then we're going to divide them by that greatest common factor of 4. So divide by 4 and divide by 4. So 12 divided by 4 is 3. And 16 divided by 4 is 4. Okay, so the simplest form of 12/16 is 3/4. Okay. All right, so let's go to our second option, or alternate method. So number 1, divide the numerator and denominator by any common factor. So a lot of people like to do it this way. Instead of listing out all the different factors, you can just divide by 2, for example. And then if it's not in simplest form, just keep going. Okay. So we're going to use the same example. We're going to use 12/16. Okay, I'm sorry. I had to pause the video for a moment because somebody came knocking at my door. All right, so as I was saying, so the alternate method is we can just divide by 2 or whatever number, maybe 3, and just keep going until it's at its simplest form. Okay, so we're going to use the same one. So 12/16. And if you see it's an even number and you don't know where to start, you can just start by dividing by 2. Okay, so let's just do that. All right, so 12 divided by 2 and 16 divided by 2. We can see easily that they're even numbers, so we know that that 2 is a good starting point. Okay, so 12 divided by 2 is 6, and then 16 divided by 2 is 8. Okay, so now we have 6/8. So 6/8 is a equivalent fraction or ratio, but it's not the simplest, right? And we can see it's still an even number, so we can keep going. We can divide by 2 again. So I'm going to rewrite it down here just to make it easier to see. So 6/8, and then let's divide by 2 again. Divide by 2. Okay, so 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 8 divided by 2 is 4. Okay, so now, here we go, 3/4, we're done. And you can see we got the same answer as we did before. We still got 3/4. It took us a tiny bit more work to do it this way. We had to divide twice, but we didn't have to list out all the factors and figure that out. So you can use either of these methods. It doesn't really matter. As long as you just take your time and you're careful and you come up with the correct answer, it's really up to you. Okay, so the only common factor between 3 and 4 is 1, right? Because 1 times 3 is 3, and 1 times 4 or 2 times 2. Those are the only factors, okay? All right, so now what I want you to do is I want you to pause the video, and I want you to try these at the bottom. So we have 14/20 and 30/50, and I want you to reduce those, and you can do it however you want. So just take a minute, pause the video, use this time to try to figure it on your own, and then when you unpause the video, I'll give you the answers and you can check your work. All right? Okay. All right. Welcome back. All right. So I will do this with both methods. So depending on which way you would rather do it, I'm going to start with this one over here, 14/20. So if you went through and you listed all the factors of 14, you would have come up with 1, 2, 7, and 14. Okay. And then for 20, you would have got 1, 2, 4, oops, 5, 10, and 20. Okay. All right, so the greatest common factor, as you can see, is going to be 2. So we're going to say, all right, 14/20, and then let's divide by that greatest common factor. Oops, divided by 2, divided by 2. So 14 divided by 2 is 7, and 20 divided by 2 is 10. Okay. And so, I mean, if I did it the other way and I just divided by 2 right off the bat, then I would have got the same thing actually. So this one I would have divided by 2, and then I would have got 7/10, and I would have realized, well, there's no common factor other than 1. So that has got to be my answer, 7/10. Okay, so that is in simplest form. All right, so the next one, let's see, so the factors of 30, you should have got 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 10, 15, and 30. And then 50 would be 1, 2, 5, 10, 25, and 50. Okay, so the greatest common factors here are 10. Okay, so 30 over 50, divided by 10, divided by 10. 30 divided by 10 is 3, and 50 divided by 10 is 5. So we got 3/5. Okay, so if I would have, let me scroll down. If I would have done, I'm going to rewrite it, 30 over 50, I could have divided by 2, and I could have gotten 30 divided by 2 is 15, and then 50 divided by 2 is 25. Well, what number goes into both of those that we can easily see? 5, right? So 15 divided by 5, and 25 divided by 5. 15 divided by 5 is 3, and 25 divided by 5 is 5. So there we go. We got 3/5 again. Okay, so whichever way you like the best, you can do, as long as you get that right answer. Okay, so now what I want you to do is work on these problems right here. So I think there's, let's see, there's 10 of them. So I want you to reduce those into the lowest form possible. Okay, so pause the video. When you come back, I'll give you the answers to those. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Welcome back. So for the first one, you should have gotten 1/3. For number 2, you should have got 3/5. And if there's any of these, I don't want to go through and do all the work for all of these because I will bore you to death. But if there's any of these that you got wrong, take a look, see what you did. Maybe did you come up with a wrong common factor, or maybe it's not fully reduced. So like for number 2, did you have 6/10 and you could have reduced it a little bit more and you didn't realize? So take a look at the ones you got wrong. Use your red pen and mark them off so that you can see what you did wrong, okay? All right, number 3, you should have got 3/4. Number 4, 1/3. Number 5, 1/9. And number 6, 7/9. Number 7 is 1/6. Number 8, 2/7. Number 9 is 1/2. And then number 10 is 2/5. All right, so I hope you guys did good. I know you guys have done that in the past, so hopefully you did awesome on that. All right, so. Okay, so again, you probably did this last year, and we might have even talked about this year, but I need to have it in your notes because when you go back to study, I want you to be able to easily see how to do this. Okay, so the first part of page 37, the top part, looks like this. We're going to be converting improper fractions, which is just a fraction that has a bigger number on top and a smaller number on the bottom, so a smaller denominator, and we're going to take them and we're going to move them into a mixed number. Okay, so a mixed number has a whole number and then a fraction. Okay. All right, so the way that we would do this is we look at so this is 17 divided by 9, okay? So how many times can 9 go into 17? How many whole times can 9 go into 17? And the answer is just 1, right? Because 9 times 2 is 18, okay? So our whole number, the whole number of whole times 9 can go into 17 is 1. And then what's left over? So when 9 goes into 17 once, we have 8 left over, right? So it would be 1 and 8 ninths, okay? So another way that we could do this is we could say, okay, so this is 17 divided by 9. Oops. All right, so how many times does 9 go into 17? 1. Okay. 1 times 9 is 9. We're going to subtract, and then we said that we had 8 left. Okay, so now here's our whole number, 1. That's the total even times that 9 goes to 17. Okay, and then the 8 is our numerator, and the 9 is our denominator. Okay, so you can do it like this too. All right, so 8 is what's left over, and then the 9, the denominator is going to stay. All right, so let's do that again. Okay. All right, so how many times does 4 go into 14? So 4 times 3 is 12. Okay, so that's the biggest time, so our whole number is going to be 3. So if we did 4 times 3 is 12, how many would we have left over? That would be 2, right? So 2 over 4. So 3 and 2/4, so we would want to reduce that. So that's 3 and 1/2. Okay, because we need to reduce, because 2/4, we know that we can reduce that to 1/2. All right, and then again, we can write it like this, if you prefer to write it out. Okay, so we said 4 goes into 14 3 times. 3 times 4 is 12, and then we have 2 left over, so our whole number is 3, our numerator is 2, and our denominator is still 4. So that gave us back to this one, and then we just had to reduce. Okay, so make sure you write yourself a little note. Reduce. All right, so the third one, 38 divided by 10. So 10 goes into 38 3 times, and then we would have 8 left over. Keep our denominator of 10. Okay, now let's reduce. So greatest common factor is 2. So when we divide by 2, we get, I'm going to move it down here, 3 and 4/5. Okay. Now, do it like this for you. Okay. So 3 times 10 is 30. We have 8 left over. So our whole number, our numerator, and our denominator. Okay. Okay, so now let's go down to the bottom and let's take a mixed number and turn that into an improper fraction. Okay, so the first one over here, so what we do is we take the denominator of 5 and we multiply it times the whole number of 4, and then we add, so we're going to multiply, and then we're going to add the 1, and then we keep the denominator. Okay, so what that looks like is 4 times 5 is 20, and then 20 plus 1 is 21, okay, and then we keep the denominator of 5, okay? So you multiply these two numbers, and then you add the numerator, okay, and that denominator stays, okay? So 21 over 5. All right, so this next one, and if you want, if you think that you got this, you can pause it for a second, that's totally fine. All right, so 4 times 7 is 28, plus 3 is 31, and then keep our denominator, okay? So 7 times 4 plus 3 equals 31, and then keep that denominator of 4. All right, last one. 8 times 1 is 8, plus 5 is 13, and then keep my denominator of 8. So 13/8. All right. So your homework, you're going to be doing you're going to be doing some converting on IXL. So hopefully you have a pretty good handle on this. I think you guys are going to do wonderful. Let's see. All right, so here we go. So you're going to go to IXL. You're going to click on 6th grade. So be careful because I know sometimes I give you 7th grade IXL. So make sure you're in 6th grade or you're going to do the wrong one completely, okay? So you're going to do two different ones. You're going to do I-5 and I-9. And I want you to get at least an 80%. If you are doing awesome and you want to keep going, that'd be great. But I'm just telling you, you need to get to 80%, the minimum, okay? So you're going to do that in class today. And then if you can't finish it, then you're going to do it for homework. So hopefully you don't have any homework because I don't want you to have to homework on the weekend if you don't need to. So if you need any help, you can always email me. I'm still available even though I'm not there. And hopefully I'll be on Friday. If not, I'll definitely be on Monday. So if you need some help, just email me and we can set up a time for us to get together, okay? All right, so that's all I've got for you guys. Okay, so good luck, and I hope you're being wonderful for the substitute, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I'm sorry I couldn't be there today. Okay, bye, guys.